Hey everyone. Since I don't use this channel for travel videos much anymore, or really much of anything anymore, and since people seem to like some of the linguistic videos that I've made in the past, I thought I'd make a little video just talking about something that's just kind of amusing. It's more amusing than anything really enlightening about linguistics or anything, but it's just, yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about how German sometimes seems to be like the opposite of English. Like it's basically English backwards in some ways. I'm just going to illustrate that using Notepad because I'm so old-fashioned that I use Notepad. Actually, I guess Notepad is pretty new because it's a Windows program. I used to use MS-DOS Edit, so actually the fact that I'm using Notepad is pretty 21st century now that I think about it. But anyway, so yeah, how is German like English backwards? Well, a way that a lot of people will kind of stumble upon or kind of struggle with if they learn German is the German tendency to put a verb at the end of a sentence. For example, I don't know, let's just take a simple example, like the German sentence, Ich habe das Buch gelesen. Now, this literally translates into English as I have the book read. And a lot of English speakers say this feels like talking backwards, putting the verb at the end of a sentence. It's so weird. It just doesn't make sense. It just really doesn't come naturally to them. I think you just after some practice, it will come naturally. Like it's not that difficult. It's not extremely difficult, but it does take some getting used to. If you're a native English speaker and you've spoken English all your life and you don't usually put verbs at the ends of sentences like this. I mean, the reason why German does this is, or the circumstances under which German does this is when you have a modal verb. Now, what's a modal verb? If you're not sure what a modal verb is, I'll try to explain it. So basically, a simple sentence with just like one verb, like let's say, I don't know, I open the door. Now, this in German is exactly the same. Ich öffne die Tür. So a simple verb like this with one single verb in it is it's just going to have like it's a word for word translation. I'm just wondering, is that right? I just want to make sure that I actually wrote that. For some reason I'm doubting myself now, just because I feel like I just want to make sure that I've actually put the correct form, that I've conjugated öffnen correctly. I feel like I have, but some I feel like I have doubts because I don't actually conjugate. I don't say ich öffne very much. Yeah, it is correct. Ich öffne die Tür. I thought somebody just wanted to be sure. So yeah, so a simple sentence like this will be a word for word translation between English and German. But a modal verb is something that basically needs another verb to work. So if you think of verbs like can or must or will, these don't really say anything by themselves. Like if you say I can, then people will say you can what? There's got to be another verb there. There's a verb missing there. I can is a verb. Can is a verb, and so is must, and so is will. But they're so-called modal verbs because they don't work on their own. They change a main verb. So you can say something like I can run. Okay, you can run. That's a sentence, but you can't just say I can with no context. Unless there's context to say what it is that you can do, then okay, then it might be clear. But otherwise, people say like, well, you can what? And same for something like I will go to the store. Okay, if you say I will go to the store, then people know what you mean. But if you just say I will, then people are going to say, you will what? What are you going to do? Like you didn't finish your sentence. So these are modal verbs. And so the way that German handles modal verbs is it puts the modal verb in the same sentence that it would be in English, but then for whatever reason it puts the main verb at the end. So it's like if I say something like ich kann die Geige spielen. This means I can play violin. Actually, I'll write it in English first. I can play the violin. So, the literal word for word translation is I can the violin, play. So you see how that works? If you have a modal verb, German pushes the main verb to the end of the sentence, and that's just something German does. So if you see stuff like this happening, it's because there's a modal verb in the sentence. But simple sentences without a modal verb with just like one verb in them will have the same order as in English. So it's not consistently crazy like that. It's not always putting the verb at the end, but in many sentences, in many sentences, you will see the verb at the end, and that's just that kind of sentence order is just something you have to get used to. So this is something that trips up a lot of people when they learn German. If you're learning German as a foreign language, this can get very, very frustrating and very confusing and difficult for some people. I mean, it does take some getting used to, definitely. If you've never done this before, it takes a while to get used to this kind of word ordering, this sort of Satzklammer, they call it basically in German, which basically means like positioning of words in sentences. But I think it's not that difficult. I think it's really like it's not as difficult as some people seem to suggest it is. So yeah, that's one way, that's one kind of obvious way in which German sort of does things a little bit backwards, or how it seems backwards to a lot of English speakers. One funny thing that if you look at a German keyboard, I don't know how many of you have ever looked at a German keyboard, but you know how most people, at least in English-speaking countries, use a QWERTY keyboard, which is called QWERTY because the first 6 letters of the keyboard are literally that. Like if you look in the upper left, if you have an English language keyboard and you look at the upper left of the keyboard, literally these are the first 6 letters of the keyboard. A German keyboard is very similar. It has all the letters. It has all the English letters in the same places as on an English keyboard, except the last 2. The last 2 letters get swapped. So where you have a Z or a Z on an English keyboard, you have a Y on a German keyboard. And where you have the Y on the English keyboard, you have a Z, and therefore the German keyboard is the Querz keyboard, which is also kind of funny. It's like they were doing so well all the way from A to X. They had the letters in the exact same positions as in English, and then right at the end they said, "Hey, let's swap these letters just for fun." Well, I mean, there's a reason for that. The letter Y is actually not much used in German. It mostly, when it does occur in German, it's mostly used in loan words. Mostly you'll see it in words that are not of German origin, and the letter Z or Z is quite a lot more common in German than it is in English and probably a lot of other languages that use Z or Z. So it's just a matter of convenience. Y is not used much, and Z or Z is used a lot more than in English. So it makes sense to do it. It's just kind of funny. So yeah, those are some linguistic things. A lot of the things that I thought of, a lot of things that I'll be putting in this video are have to do with math or numbers, which probably makes sense. German does a lot of weird things with numbers that are just kind of, well, they don't really seem very, very logical. So I'll mention one thing which really drives me crazy. This is like the one, if there's one thing that I could say I really hate about German, I think this is it. I'm going to tell you the one thing that really just absolutely drives me crazy about the German language, and that is the way that they reverse the last 2 digits of numbers. So like if you have a number like, I'm just going to type some random number in English, and pronounce it in English. So in English, you'd pronounce this number with each digit in order. So you'd say 7,238,126. In German, what they do is they swap the last 2 digits. So for example, a number like 25 in English is pronounced 25 in German, literally 5 and 20 in German. Now, this is actually something that English used to do. If you think about, you know, there's that nursery rhyme, Sing a Song of Sixpence, a pocket full of rye, 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie. It used to be more common in older English, like maybe a couple of hundred years ago, to do exactly this. You'd mention the ones digit first and then the tens digit. So German, in a lot of ways, is actually like Old English. A lot of the strange things that German does were present in kind of archaic English, and we've lost them in English in the meantime. Like English has been modernized to the point where it's lost these features, but German is more linguistically conservative in this sense. It has retained a lot of these old sort of archaic features that English doesn't have anymore, and this is one of them. So a number like this, if I come back to this number here, so the 7 million is okay. We start off with 7 million in German. But then this here, this wouldn't be 238,000. This would be 208 and 30,000. And then you'd finish off by saying 106 and 20. Now, if you're reading a long number, if you're reading like, a longer string of digits, it is absolutely insane because people will do this. Like people will say 2 and 70, 8 and 30, 12, 2 and 60, 8 and I consistently, like I've been speaking German for years and I will still consistently get these backwards. Like if people start doing this, I will consistently write the doublets that they're saying backwards because even though I know, okay, yeah, this is 2 and 70, still when somebody's dictating it to me verbally and I try to write it, I will consistently say, okay, 2 and 70 like that, which of course is wrong. It's not 2 and 70, it's 2 and 7 or 27. But it's, in my opinion, it's incredibly illogical. It makes absolutely no sense. I don't know why they do this. Now, German's not the only language that does this. There are other languages. I think some other Germanic languages, like Swedish. I'm not sure. I don't speak Swedish, but I think Swedish might do this. And to be fair, there's like a whole meme about this. If you look up linguistic difference meme numbers or something, go like Google image search and look that up, you'll see some other funny stuff that other languages do. Like French is really weird in how it does higher tens of numbers, like 90, for example. Like I think there's a meme about how different languages say 97. Now, I don't speak French very much, but basically what French does for 97 is, well, let me start at the beginning. So French for saying 97, I'll just write 97 here in French, is 40, 20, 10, 7. So that's literally 97 in French. They say 40, which is like 4, 20. So you're saying 4 times 20, 10, adding a 10, and then 7, adding the 7 at the end. So that is getting pretty crazy. And then there are other languages like Danish, which is just like, if you look at them in the meme, some memes include Danish, and it's just like it's even more insane. It's like 97 is expressed by like minus a half, minus 5 times, I don't even know, it's some absolutely crazy thing. So I mean, other languages maybe do even more crazy things. So the way that German reverses the last 2 digits, like the tens and the ones digit, is maybe not as crazy as some things that other languages do, but it's still just, it absolutely drives me insane. Like it's totally illogical. For all the reputation that German has for being a very logical and stable language, it really isn't in some ways, and this is, I think, the biggest example of how it's totally illogical, how it just keeps, like if you're dictating this number out loud, like if you're reading this number out loud, you will just keep jumping back and forth. You'll do this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then, okay, you'll do 12 as one, but then you'll do like 2 and 60. It just keeps jumping back and forth like that. It's absolutely insane. Okay, moving on. One thing which you want to watch out for if you are a British native English speaker, I think Americans are not impacted by this as much, but so in British English, when people are talking about times of the day, what they will often say to refer to like half past, like what Americans would probably say, like, for example, let's say 9:30. So an American would probably just say 9:30, or maybe 9:30. Although even that sounds kind of weird. 9:30. Like, does anybody really say that? I don't know. Most people just say 9:30. But in the UK, what people sometimes do, I've heard multiple times. I've heard British people say this. People will call this 9:30. Now that might seem reasonable. Maybe, okay, 9:30, 9:30. Okay, sure, no problem. But if you are a British person on business in Germany, and if you speak some German and you're trying to schedule a meeting in German or an appointment of some kind, this will really get you, because German also has the phrase, for example, I'll say 8:30, which literally means 9:30. So 9:30, 9:30. But what time do you think 9:30 is? It's not 9:30. It's 8:30. It's half before. It's half to 9. So this, I think there have probably been cases where British people have been really messed up by this, because somebody will say, yeah, let's do the appointment for 9:30 or something like that. And people will say, oh yeah, cool, okay, 9:30. And then they show up at 9:30, an hour late to the meeting that's supposed to start at 8:30. So watch out for this. If you, this is a way in which German is, again, it's like English backwards. And like I said, I don't think American or Canadian people are as affected by this, because I've never heard anyone say anything like 9:30 in Canada or the US. It's not something that people say there. It is a British thing. So yeah, watch out for that if you're a British person. Make sure that you understand 9:30 means 8:30. And just as an adjunct to that, I'll add just sort of as an extension of that. There is also something like Viertel 9. Now, Viertel means quarter. And it does mean, in this context, a quarter of an hour, 15 minutes. But what do you think Viertel 9 is? Do you think that's 9:15 or 8:45? Is it a quarter past 9 or a quarter to 9? Based on what you've seen here, you might think it's quarter to 9. But no, it's actually, 9:30 doesn't mean half before 9. And Viertel 9 doesn't mean a quarter before 9. Viertel 9 is 8:15. The idea here is 1/4 of the 9th hour has passed. So 9 o'clock, when you're going from 8 to 9 o'clock, that's the 9th hour of the day, right? So at 8:15, 1/4 of the 9th hour has transpired, and Viertel 9 means that. It means 1/4 of the 9th hour has transpired. We're now at 8:15, 1/4 into the 9th hour of the day. So there is a logic to it. It's not totally senseless, but it can really, again, if you're not used to this, it can really mess you up. It's not intuitive to native English speakers, because, again, English speakers don't speak this way. So this is one thing that can really confuse people, for sure, if you're not used to telling time in German. Okay, I'm going to leave off numbers for a bit. I'll come back to numbers at the end, but just a couple of things about the language which I find kind of funny. One thing which can be extremely misleading and confusing to English speakers, again, if you're learning German, is a sentence like, Du musst das nicht. Now, the literal English translation of this is, you must that not. First of all, the wording here is a bit strange. I mean, obviously, in English, you would say, you must not do that, or something like that. But okay, that aside, what do you suppose this means? What do you suppose du musst es nicht, what does it actually mean in German? If you assume that it has the same meaning as in English, you would think, okay, that's prohibited, like I'm not allowed to do that, or for some reason I really, really shouldn't do that because something bad might happen if I do it. But no, in German, du musst das nicht, you must not do that, doesn't mean the same thing as in English, you mustn't do that. What it means is simply, you don't have to do that. If somebody says, das musst du nicht, or du musst das nicht, that means You don't have to do it. You can. I'm not saying it's prohibited, not forbidding you to do that, but you don't have to. You can consider it optional, I guess. If somebody is basically prohibiting you from doing something, then the expression in German is "Du darfst das nicht." And this basically means you don't have permission to do that, or you can't do that. Well, if something's physically impossible, then somebody would say, "Du kannst das nicht." You can't do it. "Du kannst das nicht" basically implies it's physically impossible, like it's against laws of science. But if something's just either prohibited by law or by the rules, or if somebody's saying, don't do that because something terrible will happen, then the sentence is "Du darfst das nicht" or "Das darfst du nicht." But "Du musst das nicht" is, again, it can be very confusing for English speakers. You might think that's a prohibition. No, it's just, the person's being nice and saying you don't have to do that. You don't need to stress yourself unless you really want to do that. So yeah, just another example. And just a small thing which one of my German teachers once pointed out to me. In English, you drink coffee to get caffeine. In German, you drink Kaffee to get Koffein. It's a little bit inverted. Kind of funny. I mean, it's just a small thing. It's just a curiosity. This is like one of those little curiosities that language learners like to pick up on because it's like, oh, it's kind of cool. It's like, oh, okay, they swapped the A and the O. It's not a big deal. It's just kind of funny. Okay, coming back to numbers, I'm almost at the end here. This is almost at the end of the things I thought of. But one very big thing that you need to pay attention to if you're working with numbers in German is they swap the period and the comma. And actually, German's not the only language that does this. In fact, English is actually I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me explain. So, if you're a native English speaker, what does this mean to you? Well, it's 1.5, right? It's 1.5, meaning 1.5. And if I add some zeros like that to it, what does this mean? It doesn't change the number. I can add as many zeros as I want. After the decimal point, zeros don't change anything. So 1.5 is the same as 1.50 or 1.500000 or whatever. So 1.5 is 1.5 in English. And what if I write something like this? Well, in English, the comma is a digit separator. It's used in larger numbers to indicate, just to make long numbers easier to read. So like this is 1 million in English. If you're a native English speaker, you've probably seen numbers written this way all your life. Guess what? English is weird in how it does this because most European languages, German for sure, I think also French, and I think most continental European languages have this exactly reversed. They do this exactly the other way around. So 1.5 in German is 1,5, 1,5. And 1 million is written like that. The dots are digit separators, but they're not decimals. They're just there for readability. They're not required to be there. They're just there for readability's sake. This really messed me up when I first took a university entrance exam. When I was first trying to get into university in a German-speaking country, my German wasn't bad, but I hadn't been trained in this, and I got like 80% through the math part of the exam before I realized, oh, I forgot about this. Because the exam had numbers like this, like 300.000, and I thought, why are they writing it like that? Like, why are they writing it with 3 decimal places? Is it just that Germans are so precise? Are they really that precise that they're writing a round number to 3 decimal places just for pickiness sake? I mean, it was totally unnecessary. And so when I wrote my answer, like if the answer was this, I would just write 300 because I thought, okay, 300 is the same as 300.000. And like I said, I got most of the way through the test before I realized, oh, you know what? This is not 300.000, it's 300,000. And I've just blown a lot of the questions on the test because I've written I interpreted the test using English notation, and this is actually a German language test. It's German numbers. The digits themselves are the same. The digits are the same as in English, but some of the notation is different. Like again, the way obviously they swap the dots, the periods, and the commas. So this can definitely really mess you up if you're not watching out for it. Like if you're really yeah, I mean, be aware of this. If you're in Germany or in like I said, I think most other continental European countries, watch out for this and understand the comma is the decimal. It's not just a digit separated for readability's sake. It's actually where you start getting into the fractional part of the number. Just as a funny side story to this, I remember seeing a discussion on the internet. I'm going to talk about Nazis. I hate talking about Nazis because it's such a contentious subject, but this is funny. This is actually a funny story. So I saw somebody writing on the internet about ein tausendjähriges Reich. So Hitler famously said that he planned for the Nazi Reich to exist for 1,000 years, and so he was talking about 1,000-year Reich. And some person, I think they were joking. I think this was not like an actual neo-Nazi. I think they were just being facetious. But somebody was talking about the 1,000-year Reich, and they wrote it like this. And a German-speaking person commented on it and said, "You only want your Reich to last for 1 year? That's not very long." Because obviously in German, this, with a comma is 1,000. It's 1 instead of 1,000. So that was kind of funny. It's just kind of like a funny thing. Like you only want a Reich for 1 year. That is not a very big, not a very long-lasting Reich. Okay, enough about internet humor. Okay, last thing, and this is not a very big thing, but it's something that bears mentioning. Division is something that if you're in like an American or if you're a native English speaker, you probably learned to write division using a symbol, which I don't even know how I type it with a keyboard. But it's a horizontal line with a dot above and a dot below. Basically, it's a cross between, it's a combination actually. It's a combination of a minus sign and a colon. So, what is it called? I don't even remember what it's called. It has some special name that actually escapes me now. But anyway, so yeah, so that horizontal, so minus sign superimposed on a colon. That's the usual division sign in English. At least that's the one that I learned growing up. So like 4, that symbol 3 means 4 divided by 3. German. And again, I think many other Central European languages do this. I think that German is not the only one, but German at least tends to use a notation which was pioneered a few centuries ago and became the standard in German of writing 4 divided by 3 or any other division, writing division with a colon like this. So this is 4 divided by 3 in German. It's actually the same symbol as in English, but without the minus part of it, without the horizontal line. So it's actually, you take a division sign and turn it into a colon, and that's the division sign in German. Now, in English, what's interesting about this is it's actually mathematically the same thing, but in English, a colon like this is usually only used to represent a ratio of 2 things. So it's like if you have, I don't know, a litter of puppies, let's say, or kittens, you might say that the ratio of male to female puppies is 4:3. Maybe for every 4 male puppies, there are 3 female ones. So that this expresses a ratio of 2 numbers. Now the thing is, that's what division is. If you know math, a division is literally, it's a rational number, right? It's literally a number expressed as the ratio of 2 numbers to each other. So 4 divided by 3 as a fraction, as like a fractional or rational number, is the same thing as the ratio. It literally is the ratio of 4 to 3. So the ratio of 4 to 3 is mathematically, it's actually literally the same thing as the division of 4 by 3. It expresses the same ratio of these numbers to each other. But people don't usually think about it like that. People, conceptually, as English speakers, we separate a ratio from division, even though they are mathematically equivalent. So it actually kind of makes sense. It is mathematically the same thing. It's just you don't write it this way in English. But that symbol that I was talking about, the usual English division symbol, that doesn't exist in German as far as I know. At least I've never seen it used in Germany. They just use, either they use a fraction with like, the numerator on top and then a horizontal line and the denominator on the bottom, or they write it like this, numerator colon denominator. So it's just a different notation. I mean, it's just a different way of writing it. But it's just kind of funny because you think numbers are universal, numbers are global, and most countries around the world use the same number glyphs. They'll use the exact same symbols for 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but then they use different symbols for addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Well, in German's case, it uses the same symbols as English for addition, subtraction, and multiplication, but then they use a different symbol for division. And other fields may use other different symbols depending on the specialty of different mathematical or scientific fields. So it's just kind of funny. It's just how they kind of took a concept and what is, again, mathematically the same concept, but reworked it to display it differently in a way that, again, most English speakers don't really think about. Most English speakers don't think about a ratio as being the same as a division, even though, again, it is. It is literally the same concept. It's the same mathematical principle. You're relating the proportion of two numbers to each other, and that proportion is the number expressed by that ratio, by that rational number. That's it. That's it for me. That's all I thought of. If you have other ideas, other kind of interesting suggestions or thoughts about how German is kind of English turned backwards, then let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to see if you folks have any other sort of perspectives or ideas on this, just kind of different ways that languages turn things around in a way that can be surprising to people who are trying to learn that language. I mean, these are all things which, I'm a native English speaker, so these are things that I've learned from German, from learning German over a process of years, but it's just kind of funny. A lot of these things were very surprising to me, and they might be surprising to you too. So anyway, that's it for me. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope that it was enjoyable. Take care of yourselves. I'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye for now.